Hey friends, Pastor Michael from Organic Church. We're excited for another season of growing together. We'd love to have you join us on Sunday mornings at 10 or Wednesday evenings at 7 for friends, family, and a whole lot of Jesus.
It's nice to have, like, where I work, we're all Christians. And like the other day I was talking with the one girl about her husband is a pastor. He's not the senior pastor anymore, but it's one in Philly. And yeah, Philly, I think. But I mean, she's like, it's just crazy how much anxiety. She's like, I know I shouldn't carry this anxiety because I've been a follower my whole life. And I'm like, listen, it is not your fault. I said a lot of the times that is genetic. And I said, I was telling her about people like, oh, well, God will save me. God will save. I'm like, well, maybe God's way of saving you, or at least helping you out of that trench right now, is that medication temporarily. You know what I mean? And
right.
So at least I was kind of able to,
or that person to talk with,
person,
that
or the doctor,
whoever.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's just nice that you're able to. I mean, we were just free spirited talking about it at lunch. Like, you can't do that everywhere. You know what I mean?
And that's a benefit of working at the Catholic hospital.
Yeah.
I can
exactly
pray with these people.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't want to. I just get nervous about it. But sometimes God's just sitting there, go. And I know that I'll be in bad shape if I don't.
If you don't. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
I wonder if Esther was that way.
Well, we'll find out, won't we?
Dun, dun, dun. Esther. Yeah. So if you guys don't know, we're going to talk about Esther tonight.
Are we on?
Yeah, we're on.
See, you didn't tell me.
On now.
Now we're on minute 30.
Minute 30.
Minute 30.
Well, is everybody enjoying the warm weather?
Yeah, it's been weird, though.
It's been humid
It
the past
has.
few
so
days.
humid. And like,
You don't want to complain because coming out of 6 months of winter time,
Oh,
right?
last thing you want to do is complain that it's warm.
Oh, no.
No,
I'll just go to the pool.
Yeah.
yeah.
But when I left the
Soon as I
house
get it
today
clean.
at 5:30, it was 72 degrees.
Yeah.
That's a bit much.
Yeah. And sticky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for our listeners, if they don't know where we're located, United States, state of Ohio, Northeast Ohio, and we're just in that little spot where, we get like 6 months of winter climate, seasonal winter weather, maybe a month of spring, maybe a month of fall,
Maybe.
and then like 2, maybe 3 brutal months of humid,
Yep.
hot weather.
Heat and humidity.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
We're
very.
the only place that you turn your furnace on in the morning and your air conditioner on in the evening.
Yeah, you just never know.
Yeah. Got to get that chill out.
Yep.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Anything else exciting going on?
Oh,
Anybody?
I get a new washer and dryer tomorrow.
Nice.
I know the feeling.
No, it's not excitement, but
No.
I'm thankful that we are blessed that we can afford it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have, our pantry is only large enough for the stackable apartment size.
Yeah, that's what we have to have too.
And the washer went out. We put, I think, $500 in it 32 days ago. So when they came back, they told me, well, we'll have to charge you another service call because our service, it's only for 30 days.
Are you kidding
No,
me?
we're 32 days out. But it wasn't the same problem. But it was another $900 worth of repairs. And it's 5 years old. It's just not practical,
to spend that.
Yeah. 1,400 in 32 days.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So we were able to get one in the dent and scratch section.
Nice. Yep.
For $1,700, and I'm like, it's going.
You didn't go to MacBid and get one?
No, I got it from Weavers.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
Can you get appliances at MacBid?
Yeah, you
Oh,
can.
probably.
You can
I
actually.
did not know that.
Fun fact: I don't know how to do it. Michael might know, but you can. Because he was talking about it briefly one day. But if you would want to bid on stuff like that, like say you, but that's the thing. I don't know how to realize what it will be bidding on. Like say this dryer comes to start bidding, it's a 3-day bid or something, but you can look at that before you start bidding, but how do you know it's going to be bid on? Do you know what I mean? So you can go to MacBid, look at it, see
all the dents or scratches. I don't know, but I'm like, I guess you can do that. But I think that would be very beneficial if you were living up closer maybe. And I mean, I don't know. I've seen washers. I've seen refrigerators. I think a dryer I've seen. When I went to pick one, I picked something up and I actually seen like a refrigerator. Yeah. So
I know that it just was to have that, get it from them, because when you need somebody for repairs, they're basically the only ones that can come repair anymore. It's I mean, if that young kid is in school, wants to know what to go into, small appliance repair,
seriously
is in need, and so it just worked out, and I'm just thankful. And
because Chase, that's like one thing he doesn't really like. He was able to fix our dryer one time, but I think our gas stove, we had recently bought it, and I started doing something with it, and I tried to ignite it, but all of them were like, crack. I'm like, oh crap, and actually I think it's CJ's appliance. It's one of my high school like friends' dad. He works on them, but I think he's from Port Washington maybe. But yeah, I was having a hard time. I'm like, who do you call? Because I could not find anyone, and somehow I think someone ended up telling me about him. And I mean, I think it was like $110 to come and do like 30 minutes. I don't know.
Yeah. It's not coming tomorrow. It's coming Friday, and I'm leaving for Florida tomorrow, so that's a good thing.
Yes.
I'm going to go right into the hot and humid.
Where are you going in Florida?
I'm actually going to Tampa.
Oh yeah. Nice.
So
I'll be going to Englewood in mid-July. It's like
That's where Maggie's at.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. She's got till Saturday. She is so ready to come home.
Oh, is she?
She is.
Well,
she's
she's
over
kind of
it.
a homeboy.
Well, it's been a little bit of a tough situation because she went down there with her friend and the friend's mom and dad. Well, the dad wasn't feeling well before they left, but they convinced him to go anyway because, you paid for the flights, all this. You might as well go. When you get down there, you can go to the hospital if you feel you need to. Well, that's exactly what happened. Found out he had a heart attack.
Oh, jeez.
So they admitted him, and now I think he's had 2 surgeries within the last week and a half.
Out of state.
And so instead of, which she's been going swimming, going to the beach, stuff like that, but she spent a lot of time in the hospital with her friend, sitting with her dad. So it hasn't been exactly the, ideal
But you know what? God
vacation she thought it was going to be.
So Maggie could be there for that little.
Yeah, you never know. Yeah, you never know.
That's true.
Yep.
But yeah, she is more than ready to get back home, and she's never been away from her mom this long in her life.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Or this far away from her. So
yeah.
But I think overall, it'll be in the end. I think it'll be good for her. It was a good experience.
I was supposed to go to Lido Keys in July with Clayton, the end of July, but their condo had a lot of damage from the hurricane, and they thought they had everything ready for inspection, and they came in there and inspected them all, and there is something with the line to the pool that runs the electrical is not done correct, so they shut everything down for them opening. So the resort wasn't sure that they were going to be able to get somebody in there to do the repairs and then get the inspection done to be open by July 26th. Because he has a timeshare down there.
Well, I'll be going to Massachusetts next month.
All right.
Nice.
Got to bring my granddaughter home. She always gets to come home for a few weeks in July. Usually it's the entire month, but...
You flew last time, right?
I did.
Are you flying again?
No, I'm driving this time.
How long's the drive?
12 hours. 12, 13 hours.
Yeah.
Depends on the traffic. But that way we can do something on the way.
Yeah, on
She's
the way
a power
back.
driver. She can drive 12 hours, sleep 2 hours, and drive 12 hours back.
That's rough, though. That's getting hard to do.
Oh,
I was going to say, can we hire you for our Maine trip?
That's, yeah. That's getting tough.
Where are you going to Maine?
Up by Arcadia National Park.
Oh,
you'll have to let me know
So-
if you like it, because I want to go up that way.
oh it's beautiful up that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, this will be our first time
Yeah.
up that way. So
Is that's north of Goose Bay, isn't it?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been up to Goose Bay.
I
That's
think
pretty
it's around was it Bangor and forget what else, but yeah. So it should be fun.
Mm-hmm.
starting to get. I want to drive along the coast, see a lot of the lighthouses.
Yeah.
I want to do that. Trying to find some Civil War stuff in there. I found a few things that might be worth seeing. So,
have you heard of Solomon's Island in Maryland?
No.
I think it's very historical. My doctor's going there around the 4th of July. And I think he was a Navy. I don't know what he did in the Navy. No.
Maybe he was a dentist in the Navy.
Oh, yeah, I guess so.
Maybe.
Yeah. Now I'm thinking, I'm like, or was he in the Air Force because he flies?
Well, he could be a dentist in the Air Force also.
But that's true. But I think it was the Navy. But regardless, one or the other, they have a museum there, and he said it's very historical location. But it's not that far of a drive. It's kind of like the same as Ocean City, just a different direction.
What'd you say it was?
Solomon's Island.
Solomon's Island.
I need to look it up yet because I forgot.
Oh.
Didn't have time, like I was telling Beth earlier. No time for anything. Yeah.
Well, Roger, you joined
Hey,
us.
Roger.
How's it going out there?
Oh, hey, that's lovely.
Yeah?
A little warm, sticky, muggy.
Drink some of your water.
That's the reason I got a water.
Is it open? A little bit? You can drink some of it.
Well, I don't.
I mean, you don't have to now. I'm just making sure you're hydrated.
Just roll back there, Pastor Roger.
There's not very many left in the fridge, so I don't want to drink it real fast. It's not good for you anyway.
Water?
No.
I agree.
If Beth drinks more than 6 ounces of water a day, she's
Hey, there's water in my coffee.
That don't count.
Oh, yes,
I've been told that don't count.
Do you need something in your water when you drink,
Yes.
like a flavor?
Yes.
Yeah, but I still don't drink it because I don't like it. It gives me heartburn. I know that sounds crazy, but it does.
No, I kind of can relate to that. Yeah.
Maybe it's something in the water.
It goes down it goes down the wrong tube or something.
Listen, I've associated with it just dilutes does something to all them acids in my stomach and makes them up. That's my theory, so I don't drink it. It's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Hey, Roger, do you remember who we're talking about?
Yeah.
Who?
Esther.
Yeah, good job. Good job.
I'm surprised you didn't text me one more time.
Who?
Because I almost texted you and be like, just a reminder. I thought, no, I won't be smart.
I'm not going to lie. I'm
she
like,
always,
wait.
last time she asked me like on four different occasions. What are we doing again?
Jeez.
Yeah.
I'm the only one supposed to be acting like that.
Oh, my
When
brain.
you get old and senile and you can't remember anything.
I feel like that.
I wish I was your age again, Sid. There'd be so many things that I would change in my life.
And I'll say the same thing at your age. That's the crazy part.
But I mean,
Yeah.
when I was your age, I didn't know the Lord. So,
Yeah.
I would definitely change all
Oh
that.
yeah.
You know what the sad thing is I did know the Lord, but I had walked away when I was her age, and
Well, I mean, we all struggle with things, I mean, it doesn't make any difference what it is. We all struggle.
Yeah, but that's a part of your testimony, Beth.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's
Yes.
kind of mine too.
Mhm.
Like,
Well, and that's exactly what we were talking about. What the Bible is. When you really start studying it, you realize the Jews in themselves, God's own people, how many times they repeat the same mistakes. And, they get their kingdom back and then they lose it again. And then something else happens and they become slaves and they get it back. Something else happens. They're exiled again. And just amazing how many times, they have to go through the same problems and situations before.
and I'm wondering if
and
maybe was it documented so much just so we could relate to that? Like, hey, they were messing up so much,
Yeah.
just like you guys are.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, they're God's chosen people.
Yeah.
Right.
And,
Don't feel bad. Just pick yourself up and start over again.
Mhm.
yeah, they're our example of.
Don't wait till Monday to start that new diet. Do it now.
You gotta skip the weekend.
You got to skip the weekend. A
Yeah.
day off anyway.
Yeah.
One day anyway. A cheat day.
Cheat day.
Hey, not to change subject, but your little guy in church this Sunday made my day. That little hand up,
Yeah.
praising, and then
He was rocking.
He was. He had it going. Then he get that little finger.
Oh,
like the Saxon finger.
he loves that finger. He hears one little tune and he's like, oh, I mean, that hand's going up no matter what.
He just couldn't wait on the music to start, could he?
No.
He just,
No.
yeah.
Yeah, he's
I-
got natural rhythm. He's
Uh-huh.
going on.
Yeah, he does. My dad has a drum set at the house, and my stepmom was playing with Cooper, and she's like, "Yeah, you can take these home, buddy." And I'm like, "Oh,
Not yet.
we're gonna need a bigger house for that."
What a soundproof room. This is your
Something.
room, Cooper.
Yes.
Right?
All right.
All right, we ready to get into it?
Yep.
Let's go, Nick.
All right.
Waiting on you.
Okay, so we're going to do the Book of Esther tonight. So let's try to give a little background to this. So Esther, the Book of Esther, one of the main things that people bring up about this is that God himself is not mentioned at all in this book.
Yeah.
So I believe for a long time, they didn't even want to include it,
Is that? Do you know if that's the only book in the Bible that's like that?
to my knowledge.
Okay.
But I
'Cause
cannot
I
say with
wondered-
100% certainty.
Yeah.
It is the only book other than Ruth that is named after a woman.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an interesting little tidbit. Esther becomes queen in 479 BC. So the book of Esther is in between, if I don't pronounce this right, I'm sorry, Nehemiah and Job. So if you're wondering where it is in the Bible, it's in that period. So in 586, Jerusalem had been destroyed. The exiles go to Babylon. The first exiles return to Jerusalem in 538. The temple is completed in 516. Xerxes becomes king of Persia in 486, which we'll be talking about him. And then Esther becomes queen in 479. So this is definitely a book of a lot of drama, a lot of intrigue, a lot of... This would make a good... this probably make a good little movie, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on
Yeah.
here.
I thought there was a movie
There
made
is.
of
Well,
it.
maybe there
Is
is.
there?
I don't know.
I
Is there?
thought there was.
Okay. Is it called Esther?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll have to look it up.
Me too, because I haven't watched it.
Yeah.
It could
I didn't
be
know
called
that.
it could be called the Book of Esther.
Okay. Well, yes, it could.
I thought it was One Night with the King.
Oh, there is one night with the king.
Mm.
Was Esther always Esther?
No.
No, her what was it?
Hadassah.
Yeah,
Was her
Hadasha
real-
or Hadassah.
Hadassah
That was her real
was her
name.
church.
Yeah.
And she
Jewish
didn't
name.
she didn't become Esther until she was queen, correct?
Well, I think they changed
Mordecai.
names. Mordecai, so she wouldn't know. The king wouldn't know that she was Jewish.
Yeah, but she was an orphan.
Mm-hmm.
Her mother and father had passed away. Mordecai will take her in.
Which
Mordecai
a
is her
cousin?
cousin,
He's a cousin.
Cousin.
Yeah.
and he takes her in, takes care of her. So
Yes.
yeah, and I believe you're right. I think it is Mordecai that gives her that name.
Yes.
And he worked like on the grounds of the.
He may have been a government official,
Oh, okay.
which is why he will remain so close to Esther when she becomes queen. He's able to keep a
Go by every day
Yeah, go
to-
by every day, keep a
Gotcha.
contact with her.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. So I guess the most important question is, well, how does she become queen in the first place? So going back to the Xerxes, they ruled over Persia basically, but they also ruled over another 127 provinces. So they're really starting to take over
India.
a lot of
From
territory.
India to Africa.
Yeah.
I have in my notes.
And basically, the queen, the original queen, the king of Xerxes, he. It's crazy to think about this, but when they want to show off their power or where they're getting ready to go to war, anything like that, they decide to throw these banquets. And you think, well, a banquet, what, a few hours? Everybody brings a covered dish and, we all hang out for a little bit. No, these banquets can go on for over 100 days.
This one says 6 months.
Yeah, I think the Bible says it's like a full 180 days. So they're having this huge banquet, and it's getting to the point where everybody's drinking, everybody's having a good time. And for whatever reason, King Xerxes, he wants to show off the queen, which I believe her name is like Vashti, Queen Vashti.
Vashti. Mm-hmm.
And he wants to show her off to all the other people. Well, there's some debate as to why she disagreed. She would not come to the banquet.
Yeah.
So she defies the king. And this is a big deal.
Well, didn't he want to show her off, like her whole body off?
Well,
Was there?
I don't know.
Of that?
I guess let's maybe jump a little bit ahead to explain things a little bit about how women were treated.
Yeah.
At least in this situation. So in order to become the queen, you had to go through this huge...
Like a pageant, right?
whole pageant.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine like, Miss USA on steroids or something, like almost like an American Idol type thing, or just something where they're put through all these beauty treatments. Mm-hmm. They're only allowed to eat certain foods. They have to be... Their whole body is just prepped for this experience. So their whole existence is based on pleasing the king. Mm-hmm. And of course, these women, they're in control of the king's, I think they call them eunuchs. Mm-hmm. And they're the ones that take care of the women. Mm-hmm. The interesting thing about that is the eunuchs, for the most part, are all castrated.
That's why they can be trusted with.
That's why they can be trusted, because then there's no chance of anything going on that would defile the women or ruin it for the king. So these...
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I read, too, that the prepping them is a 12-month thing.
Yeah,
okay.
That's what I read.
It's a whole year process.
And Esther, did you read that? Esther was only 10 months.
Yeah, but the part of that reasoning is in case they were impregnated by somebody else.
Yeah.
So that wasn't labeled as the king.
Oh.
Right. Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
Yep. So after, so they go through this crazy process. And so what happens once she defies the king? Well, his authority has been questioned. And if he lets it go, of course, they're all afraid that, well, okay, it's been questioned once, it will continue to be questioned. Mm-hmm. Not to mention, they don't want, this would give women status if he backed down to her.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So in order to keep their status, they have to decide, okay, we're going to have to crown a new queen. So the process, that 12-month process begins of bringing all these virgins in from the surrounding country, from the surrounding area. And I don't know if it says in there how many actually go through this process, but it's pretty extensive. And for whatever reason, Esther is going to be chosen. I guess she's very beautiful. And this kind of, again, tells you what men value in women. Like, she is incredibly beautiful. Mm-hmm. And the other thing about her is, I guess, she wasn't very outspoken. Mm-hmm. She did exactly as she was told to do. She didn't make any special requests. She just went through the process pleasingly and just, made herself fit for the king. So he takes a special liking to her. And after... I think a little bit more, scrutinization. She finally is the one that gets selected to be the new queen. So any, more thoughts on?
The thing is, the other women, even though they were never chosen queen, they continued there.
Oh.
And were taken care of because they were no longer virgins.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't ever be able to marry another husband.
Well, and another part of this is, even though Esther becomes queen, I believe the king still, they call it his harem, he still has relations with the other women. They're still, and that's their only purpose, from what I've read, is that they're there to fulfill the desires of the king.
But there's some of them that he would never ever calls again, and so it's
he sees them one time and
they'll never have children. They'll never have that family of their own.
And I didn't know, were these women were they poor? Were they orphans as well? Were they selected from, say, maybe upstanding families, or was it like a random, or did they kind of single out the more weaker kind of
selected beautiful women?
Okay, so it didn't matter where they came from, what their situation was, as long as they were beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay.
As far as did anyone get like an age for Esther? Because there's different viewpoints.
No,
I did not. Nothing. Nowhere that
I know.
read.
I know that at some point I heard that like Queen Vashti will get her status back,
Oh, okay.
and maybe it has something to do with her son, or they're saying, well, maybe Esther died, and so then she was able to come back and either be queen again, or at least get some of that status back that she had.
Yeah, because something said like it could have spanned from 40 to 80 years old, but then somewhere else said in a different culture they were thinking like 12 to 18 years old. So I'm like, I don't know.
Wow.
I mean, that's something.
I think they did marry awful young at that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure they did.
One thing that I thought, they
This says she may have been 14.
6 months of myrrh and 6 months of oil. But isn't it frankincense and myrrh that the three wise men?
Mhm.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
It just I was like, it may have nothing to do with it, but it made me catch that.
That's once again the Old Testament and the New Testament lining up.
Right.
Again, where a
Yeah.
lot of people don't realize that it does.
Yeah.
So many different ways.
Yeah, mine says she had to complete 12 months of beauty treatments, 6 months with oil of myrrh, and 6 with perfumes and cosmetics.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then they had a choice of their wardrobe and jewelry that they would want to put on before they went to the king. And my understanding, she was kind of reserved with what she chose. From what I don't know that I read that or if I heard it on a podcast or something.
Yeah. And the other important thing to bring up is it is a total secret that she is a Jew.
Yes.
Yes.
That was my first note.
Nobody.
Yes. Yeah,
you know,
nobody
so
knew.
There is getting along in the story. There's no indication of where she comes from, who she is. So the king has no idea about her background, where she came from, nor does he care.
I just also have she lived in, is it Susa?
Yes.
The capital of the Persian Empire.
Right. Yep. So the next point of the story, once Esther becomes queen, she stays in contact with her cousin Mordecai. And like we said, we can believe that maybe Mordecai was a government official, something like that, where he could stay close to the king's circle, to the kingdom there. And so it happens, Mordecai, he's sitting around the king's gate, just hanging around, doing his thing. Maybe he's killing time on the clock. I don't know. Waiting to go home.
Right.
And he hears this plot.
Discovers a plot.
That King Xerxes is going to be assassinated. So what does he do? Mordecai tells Queen Esther about this plot. And so, of course, Esther goes to the king, tells him about it, and this event is written down in the record book of the annals of the presence of the king. So they take note of this, but at that point, they write it down, but it just kind of gets forgotten about. So I don't know if Mordecai really gets credit at the time. It actually does. I mean, my
I don't
Bible
think he
actually
gets any credit at the
says
time.
Queen Esther, who in turn reported it to the king, giving credit to Mordecai.
Mm-hmm.
So, but maybe she did, and of course the king, with everything else going on, just forgot about it, didn't even consider it. So, moving on from there, along comes Haman, the son of Hammedatha, who came from the family of the Amalekites. And so if you know anything about the Amalekites, I think it's in Deuteronomy. These are the people that God had commanded to blot out their memory from under heaven. So they were enemies of the Jews, and God had commanded their complete annihilation. So this is kind of going to be like, where your past comes back to haunt you kind of thing, so this is something. So even though, again, God isn't mentioned in this book, you can tie in all these events to what is going to happen with this story. So you have Mordecai, who, and that's the thing, him being a government official, it seems at the time, before things heat up, that they don't realize that Mordecai is a Jew either. It's not even considered.
Right.
That's what I was wondering. I'm like, if he's an official, like a government official, there's no way that they know he's also a Jew.
Mm-mm.
So Haman becomes basically King Xerxes' right-hand man. So Xerxes is going to honor him and pay him all these tributes. And of course, so everybody is supposed to follow suit. So I don't know what position Haman would, I don't know what his title actually was, but I don't know if he was like second in command to the king. Maybe if something happens to the king, is he elevated to the throne?
Right.
I don't know. But he's right there beside Xerxes in the power of the Persian Empire. Well, at some point, Mordecai is confronted with Haman, and Mordecai knows that Haman is a descendant of the Amalekites. So Mordecai will not bow down to him. He will not show him any respect. Mordecai will only worship God. He will only kneel to God. And even though he's doing his duty within the kingdom, he's doing his job, and he does the things that the Persian kingdom tells him to do, the one thing that he will not do is worship anybody else but God. So he feels that kneeling down to Haman would be,
Yeah.
So here starts the rub between Mordecai and Haman. So Haman does discover that Mordecai is a Jew. So now they know they are sworn enemies based on the past, based on everything that's happened within the Bible between the Amalekites and the Jews. Those two are sworn enemies. So day after day, Haman expects Mordecai to bow down to him, and every time Mordecai responds the same way. He just will not bow down to him. So this just enrages Haman the more it goes on. And so it's funny, he goes home and he talked to his wife about it, of all people. And he's like, what should I do with this guy? Like, he just, no matter what I do, he's just going to continue to defy me. So more or less, I think his wife's just like, well, why don't you hang? Why don't you just kill him? Just get rid of him. And like most men do, we listen to our wives, whether it makes good sense or not.
I think of that?
Yeah, why didn't I think of that? Yeah, he's got all this power, So, he takes his wife's advice, but he's going to take it a step farther because he has that hatred in his heart for Jews based on what happened to his people. Not only is he going to take out Mordecai, but he's going to send out an order to take out every Jew in every province.
Who's that sound like?
Another guy starts with H.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, he's going to call that order out. And, of course, this is going to, in turn, enrage Mordecai. So, Mordecai, he is going to tear his clothes, change into sackcloth, cover himself with ashes, and he's going to begin to protest this movement. And the thing that I like about Mordecai is he just kind of becomes like this. He kind of becomes like a specter where no matter where Haman goes, Mordecai is just standing there, just staring at him.
What are you doing?
Just defying him. Just his presence alone. He just day after day, he just wants Haman to know, like, I see you. I know what you're doing.
I don't appreciate
it.
Yeah.
And I'm not afraid of you. I'm not afraid of you. Even though you have all this authority, my authority stands with God and I don't fear you. And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because I think there's even something there where it says he doesn't really say anything. He won't say anything. He just stares at him. And I kind of thought about Jesus when he goes in to be tried. You know, for a long time, Jesus doesn't say anything either. He stays silent. So now it's like they're going head to head. And now that Mordecai knows that Haman is going to follow through on his promise to destroy all the Jews, well, now he's got to use Esther. He's got to bring Esther in to try to turn the tide, to try to get Esther to convince the king not to go along with Haman's plan to destroy the Jews. And she's a little reluctant to do this because, again, in custom, even though she's the queen, she cannot approach the king without the proper etiquette, without the proper permission. She has to go through the same channels as everybody else. And if you approach the king when you have not been summoned, you could be put to death.
Well, she says anyone who appears before the king in his inner court without being invited is doomed to die unless the king holds out his gold scepter. So,
What if he lost it?
you're doomed.
Everybody's doomed. So now she has a big decision to make because she knows she's risking her life to do this. But what does Mordecai say to her?
You were made for such a time as this.
Pretty much.
Yes. I say that to my son and his wife, you know, because they say they don't want to bring any children into this world. And I said, but that baby would be brought in at such a time as this. And I thought, where did I ever hear that? Why do I say that? Well, right here from the Book of Esther.
Yeah. I know. And you hear Michael say it all the time. I'm like, where is that coming from though? Like, I know it's somewhere in the Bible, but where?
Well, and there's that lesson that when you know what you're supposed to do, when you have a responsibility, when you know God's plan and you decide you're going to put it off, you're going to delay, you're going to try to deny it, usually it's always going to come back to hit you even harder.
Yeah.
Reality is going to set in. But you can't, you know, you can try to go around the mountain or whatever you want to do, but it's going to...
hit
God's
you in the
plan
face again.
is going to come to fruition no matter what you do.
Yes.
And he basically tells her almost to put, I don't know if he's trying to put fear into her heart, but he says, do not think that because you are in the king's house, you alone of all the Jews will escape. Right. So he's saying just because of your status, of all the things you have acquired because the king has chosen you, does not mean that you're going to escape that fate. Your fate will be the same as the lowest person on the totem pole, you know, of our race of people. So, you know, you really don't have a choice. It's either die honorably or die with regret, knowing that you didn't try. And so that inspires her that she's like, okay, go gather together all the Jews who are in Susa and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. And my maids will fast as you do. And when this is done, I will go to the king, even though it is against the law. And if I perish, I perish. So, but Esther just doesn't just go into it, you know, with no plan.
La-di-da.
La-di-da, yeah. So she's got to think about it a little bit. It's like I got to be a little crafty about this.
Well, and not to mention, like, she pondered and fasted and prayed, like, should I do this?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then she finally decided.
She takes her time. She plans well. She prays about it. And I think she uses the very same qualities and circumstance that got her there in the first place.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, she knows, like, when the king sees her, that's why he chose her in the first place. So she pretty much just sets herself right up to where he will approach her.
Right.
Instead of her, you know, approaching him.
Yes.
Yeah. She'll stand off in the distance.
Yeah.
Where
in her royal robes.
Yep. And all the things that she knows that he can't resist. And of course he comes over and he just, I mean, he don't even, he goes overboard, in my opinion. He's like, you know, what does Esther ask? You know, he's like, I'll give you anything you want. I'i'll give you half the kingdom. It'll be granted. Just tell me what you want. And I'm thinking, like, how did he jump
he
right
doesn't
to
even know
that?
what she wants yet.
Yeah. I mean, she just might, I don't know, want a bowl of milk or something.
Might just want some water that Beth hates.
Cheerios.
And,
Beth wants warm milk.
That's nasty.
Right at my nightstand.
and of course, she's like, if the king, if you find me in great favor, and if I please you so much, come tomorrow to this banquet, and then I'll tell you all about it.
Mm-hmm.
So again, he's like,
and bring Haman.
yeah,
Yes,
bring
yes,
Haman.
yes, yes.
Yep, and bring Haman along with you. So again, it's almost like she's using his own words against him. Like, I'm beautiful. I'm everything you've ever wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So if you
and I'll say most of the time I hate when girls are like that, but she's using it for a good purpose.
Yeah.
I'll
Right?
say that.
yeah. So she's got him on the hook. So where are we at? Okay, so Haman, he's in high spirits because he feels he's going to start to get the honor, that's been bestowed upon him, and that's the only thing that's important to Haman, is that everybody looks at him, everybody thinks he's on top of the totem pole, so he feels he's right where he wants to be, and of course, what does he do? He's thinking about Mordecai. And he's like, okay, we're gonna do this right. We're gonna build this elaborate set of gallows to hang Mordecai on, so the whole province can see, what's going to happen not only to him but to the rest of the Jews. So he's going to be that example that's going to kind of set off a new set of celebrations and banquets and everything to honor him. So it's all going to be about Haman. But an interesting thing happens the night before is the king is having trouble sleeping. So like most people we would do today, you get a book out and you read so you can fall asleep. So
no, Nick, I think that's just you.
Keep me up all night.
Well, and honestly, like I was saying at the beginning of the podcast, like the girl who has anxiety and everything, she said like for her, she goes to a different location. Like, and I'm like, yeah, I kind of do that too. Like if you can't fall asleep in your bed, she goes to the couch type of thing. But yeah, I guess that's a good idea. I'll have to try that next time.
Or just find and it's almost like it says like they're going to find the most boring thing, so they get out the history of his kingdom, so they can start reading it. And it just so happens, I don't know if this is part of Esther's plan for them to read this particular, volume,
right,
or whatever.
Yeah.
But in that, what they read to him is how Mordecai uncovered this assassination plot, and the king gets intrigued, and he's like, "Really?" He's like, "Well, who is he? Like, did we ever do anything for this guy? Was he ever honored at all? Like, who is he?" And it's at that point that it's revealed that it's Mordecai. And he's like, "Well, we gotta honor this guy." So it just so happens at that moment, here comes Haman strolling along. And talk about timing. The king says, "Well, who's in the court?" And his attendant says, "Well, Haman's just standing out there." So the king says, "Well, bring him in." And when Haman entered, the king asked Haman, "Well, what should be done for this guy Mordecai that the king delights so much that he feels he should honor him?" But king didn't say Mordecai. He didn't say who it was.
Yeah.
And when the king said it, he thought because he saw Haman that he was talking about Haman. So Haman's like, well, this is a perfect opportunity, So he's like, "Who is there that the king would rather honor than me? For the man the king delights to honor, have them bring a royal robe the king has worn, and a horse the king has ridden, one with a royal crest placed on his head. Then let the robe and horse be entrusted to one of the king's most noble princes. Let them robe the man the king delights to honor, and lead him on the horse through the city streets, proclaiming before him, this is what is done for the man the king delights to honor. So the king's like, well, hey, right now, get going, get the robe, get the horse, go find Mordecai. And Haman has to be like, excuse me?
Speechless.
You'll find who?
Excuse me? I mean, his
what?
his pit of his stomach just must have dropped out.
That'd be a real kicker, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
man.
the very man that you
getting
are
all
planning
blown up and then
yeah,
deflate you.
the very man you are planning to hang the next day to honor yourself. Now you got to honor the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Plot twist.
plot twist, mic drop.
Right.
So of course Haman goes home and he's just, he's beside himself. So, but he's got to do it. He's got to follow through with it. Next day, of course, it's the banquet. King's there, Esther's there. And once again, the king's just swooning over Esther, and he asks her a second time, like, well, what is it you want? I'll give you anything. I'll give you half the kingdom if you want it. So this time, she says, if I have found favor with you, O king, and if it pleases your majesty, grant me my life and spare my people. This is my request. For I and my people have been sold for destruction and slaughter and annihilation. If we had merely been sold as male and female slaves, I would have kept quiet, but because no such distress would justify disturbing the king. And then, because he loves Esther so much, and I'm going to assume it's at this point that Esther tells her that she's a Jew.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
That he's like, well, who is this guy? Who would dare do such a thing? To my, my beautiful queen
and her people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Esther reveals that it's Haman, and Haman's standing there when she reveals it, and he basically at this point, the king's gonna be like, not a second's hesitation. Okay.
Yep.
We're gonna hang him. We're gonna hang Haman. And Haman begs Esther for his life. He falls on his knees, falls on her, begs for his life. Well, guess what? Now you just committed your second mistake. Because when the king comes back in, guess what? Haman's clinging to his queen, touching her. And that is another insult. So now it's, it's over. So Haman is going to go to the gallows and get hanged on the very same gallows that he had built at his house.
For Mordecai.
For Mordecai.
Yep.
And so there you have, once again, God's people in the most unusual situation.
Yeah.
That
Come out on top.
Come out on top.
Yeah. Like you wouldn't have thought that would have happened from the beginning,
No.
You wouldn't have thought that would have been the outcome.
Well, and it's not one of those things where how could when the king gives that order, when Haman gives that order, because I think they will mention this in the aftermath, is like, soon as that, when a king made an order, so anything that he signed it with his ring. He would stamp it.
Oh.
And once he signed that order, even the king himself could not rescind that order.
Huh.
So it was a pretty serious thing. So it goes out into the province, and so it's going to be almost impossible to prevent this.
It's done.
It's done.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not even the king will go back on his word. So for him to, through the request of Esther, to rescind an order was almost unheard of.
Well, yeah.
So again, you look at the story of, you go all the way back to the Amalekites. The story really begins there in Deuteronomy, and it's going to follow all the way through to this next event. And without that event, you don't have this confrontation between Haman and Mordecai. And really, it's the Book of Esther, but I think maybe it should have been called the Book of Mordecai because he really is kind of the, he's kind of the hero of the story. He's kind of the one that everything
Had
pivots.
he not prompted her, had he not prodded her to do what she did.
The mascot of
of
the Book of Esther.
Like I said, he's just, it's surprising. I guess when I think about it, I'm like, well, it's surprising he just didn't lose his job when he
seriously
started to defy Haman. They could have just got rid of him.
I think it's baffling that they didn't know he was Jewish all along. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I don't know if Haman had to start digging stuff up and be like, okay, where's this guy?
Right.
Probably.
Where'd he come from?
Yeah, where'd he come from?
I don't like this guy.
Yeah. And to find out that he's, basically your blood's sworn enemy.
Yeah.
Just makes it even more interesting. But it propels the whole story to reverse the destruction of the Jewish people because at that point they had been exiled. Some had went back to Judea, some had went back to Jerusalem, but most of them had moved on to other provinces. So they were a divided people, which anytime you're divided, you're weaker.
Yeah.
So the Jewish people, in a sense, could have just became extinct. They become such a minority that at some point they may not have existed in its purest form. But through all this, they're saved. They're people
like a turnaround.
Yeah. Yeah. But it took so many. Well, of course, it took Esther in doing something that was like that was a risk. That was quite the risk, but I will give her credit. I think she did have a good deal of calculation. She knew how to go about it. Like I said, she took her time. She prayed about it. But I think she knew her king well.
Yeah.
She knew what she could
pull off.
What she could pull off.
Yeah.
And I think she gained a lot of confidence from that. And I think it was just kind of like in the beginning how she got to be queen. She never overstepped. She didn't push too hard. She didn't.
Right. She knew her place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She just went through it step by step.
Yeah.
She stayed calm. And she just worked through the problem as opposed to, she just go right to king and start begging.
Yeah.
When, before she became queen, she didn't try to be flashy. She didn't try to, really get his attention doing this or doing that, which I'm sure maybe some of the girls really tried hard. But she just was who she was.
Yeah.
And she was just honest. And I think that's how she was able to have such an advantage. She was true to herself, true to her God and her people, and that's what made it work for her.
Yeah.
One thing I found interesting with listening to different pastors talk about this story and do teachings on it, when Esther went in to the king and he put the scepter out to her, he was granting her mercy and grace. Just
I read that.
as Christ with his outstretched hand gives us our mercy and grace.
Huh.
Which, when you think about it, you can make that comparison. But the Persians, they were not godly people.
No.
So again, it's like God is even using people not of his own.
Not godly.
Not of his own.
But he's still
to
using
get the
them.
job done.
Yeah, they
He'll
don't
still use
realize.
you. Even if you're like, I don't believe in God. I don't want any part of the church or whatever. It's like, well, guess what? God still wants part of you.
Yeah.
And if he's going to use you, he's going to use you.
Yeah, he's going to make
you. don't really have a choice in the matter.
Yeah. Yeah, because they weren't followers. No. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he was so in love with her, he was going to, grant her that. And just as Christ is so in love with us. That
Yep. Yeah. Yep. If our hearts are in the right place, he will truly grant
and that
anything that we ask.
And that is a good point, like you said, Nick. Like, well, just because you don't want a part of him doesn't mean he's still not going to use you.
That's where he came from. So whether you want to deny it or not, it's like, well, he might. You won't have all the grace and favor, that you could be having on earth. But guess what? You're still part of the plan.
Yep.
So
whether you want to be or not,
you might be demoted to the lowest, denomination of what it's going to turn out to be. But eventually, though, you will serve your true purpose. That's just the way it's going to go, and this is a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
How long do you think this whole from the first chapter to the 8th chapter, how long do you think in time that took?
I say it was quite a few years. I think it was. I don't think it was like
it wasn't a couple weeks.
I don't think it was like
Right.
90 days.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I truly think it had to be over the course of time. I mean, because I would think even though,
I mean, for Esther to know the king that well.
yeah, I was going to say,
Yeah.
even
To
though,
know how to approach him.
Yeah.
yeah,
And
even though she was really beautiful and she had all the qualities he desired, she really got to know her king.
right.
Right.
And I think over time she probably gained a lot of respect because unlike Vashti, she never defied him, and I think she just had those qualities of, she, not that she knew her place, but I think she showed a different kind of strength that he appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think and I don't know if she had any like special services she was as queen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there were certain things that she did that maybe were like, he really got to the point where I just like the way she operates. She handles her position well.
Yeah.
To where he in turn, even though he may have, as a king, being in that day and age, he would never have said to anybody else,
Yeah.
hey, I see her as my equal.
I appreciate
He may have seen her as his equal.
Yeah.
And
Partner.
that could be why she got away with
Well,
Yeah.
especially
things that.
Yeah.
like all the newer providences that they were taking over and stuff. Like maybe at that point, he was kind of like, maybe she can kind of govern all that. I don't know. That's kind of where my brain was going. But
He, I don't know if he ever
Because
counseled her,
he did allow her to live, and most of the time they were beheaded
right.
at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And reading this, I read this and I go, yep, this is another perfect example of how the world was before Jesus came along.
Yes.
This is a very cold, hard, cruel
Yes.
world, especially for women, but men as well. I mean, there is no love in anything. It is all about power, control, war, and let's face it, pleasure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the reason a lot of these kings are taking over these territories, because they want the power, they want the control, they want the pleasure, they want as much as they can get.
Yeah.
For as long as they can get it.
Yeah.
And that's really the only thing they're after. It was kind of just the same way when we were reading about Jonah and, you look at all these kingdoms and all these kings and you think, man, these guys, they're some terrible people. I mean, there's really no good qualities. Now, in this king, you kind of maybe glean, there's maybe he's not such a bad given
Right.
Given the benefit of the doubt, he might be maybe better than most. But yeah, it's a there's not really, before Jesus comes along, you don't have very many, other than God's love himself and him trying to, get people to see his love, and walk in his light. The reality of the world in the human form is really cold and dark. There's just not much redeeming quality in the human form because they just won't. They're just not interested in it, which is, that's why God has to keep doing what he's doing. Example after example after example.
Say over and over and over.
Oh, no, that's
Yeah.
from something else.
So we could go, of course the Jews are delivered. They have their own set of banquets and celebrations and all those things. But yeah, they are delivered and the Jews triumph again. And I did find the interesting thing I found about it is the Jews will go out and they will strike down all their enemies.
Really?
So they become powerful again. They go strike down all their enemies and they're killing people left and right. I mean, they're really showing force, but in the Bible, they say their one redeeming quality is they never lay their hands on the plunder. So I don't know what that means exactly. I mean, it's like, so they kill people, but they don't take their possessions. They don't, yeah, I couldn't really discern, like, okay, why is that like a redeeming quality that, did you not, you didn't do it for that reason. You did it just to destroy your enemies, which was the honorable thing to do. So therefore, you don't perform any of the other disgraces that people would normally perform in wartime.
Now correct me if I'm wrong. Would that be Hebrew or Jewish? Like, as far as the translation goes, like if I'm
Would be Hebrew, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Hebrew,
I think so.
that's what I thought. Okay, so the Hebrew word could be either spoil, plunder. I'm not even going to say the other one, or a body part.
Well, yeah, the spoils of war are always, you take the enemy's possessions, you take their food, you take their equipment, you take anything that's useful or that you can take to honor yourself. So maybe that's what it means. Like they destroyed their enemies, but that was their only true purpose, and they stuck to that. They didn't burn, people's houses down or destroy. They didn't destroy anything other than the people themselves, that were their sworn enemies. But yeah, they go hard. I guess, they go hard and they go all through them provinces and maybe that was because the king couldn't rescind the order. Maybe that was the only thing you could do is like, okay, but now you have the king's permission to go out into the province, and anybody that's an enemy of your people, feel free to wipe them out until there was no enemies left.
This says this word is used in the Book of Esther to describe the wealth that the Jews in Persia were permitted to take after defending themselves. But
yeah, and it says time again that they didn't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me go. Oh, I'm never gonna find. Can't find it now because I won't pay for NLT. Here, and I gotta go watch my free game.
Well, and I think another main point of this is, it's just a reminder of God's faithfulness. It's just a reminder that even in the darkest times, when you think that you've totally lost control of the situation, when you think that your time has passed, God's still in control of the situation, and it may be years before you see something come to fruition. You're not going to have long to wait if you're waiting with the Lord. It may seem as though it could be a lifetime waiting for something to pass, but God's in control of it, no matter how dark things look.
Going back to the scepter and God's outstretched hands, it took me to Hebrews 4:16. So let us come boldly to the throne of our gracious God. There we will receive his mercy and we will find grace to help us when we need it the most. So she did. She walked in there with confidence.
Yeah. Yeah, she sure did. Yeah, I mean, at first she was a little shaky. But I think Mordecai said the right thing and kind of just laid it out there. And she's like, yep, you're exactly right. I have been born for a time such as this. And the result could be the same no matter which way I go. So I might as well go with honor and with integrity and trying to do the right thing for my people and for God. Yeah. Dawn, you look like you were going to say something.
Well, my footnotes say, we said how long for the Book of Esther. It says about 10 years. From 483 BC and concluded in 473 BC. Okay. So just about 10 years.
Okay.
I've been listening to this Elizabeth Elliot, an older pastor. Listen to her podcast, and she was talking about marriage, and she was just saying it takes 5 years for a woman to truly know her husband. So she was well into that marriage.
Yeah. Well, and it had to take a lot of, for me, it's hard to imagine, if you're the queen, right? And then you still see the king with other women, what's going on. And you would truly feel like, what kind of position is this?
Right.
Right.
So for her to keep that kind of, integrity and, her.
Yeah.
Her,
And there's never any mention of children.
No. No. So, yeah. And
which makes you wonder how maybe she was actually really involved with the political and government part of it because maybe she didn't have time to be a caretaker for the children. I don't know.
Yeah, you don't know. But she does die at some point, like I said, and I think Queen Vashti does come back and get some of her. So I don't know if Esther maybe died young, so there wasn't that opportunity to have children.
I read something that I think it said she died like at 28 or something.
Yeah, so her reign might have been very short, but just enough to fulfill her purpose. And yeah.
Now, is there biblical that said that Vashti comes back?
I did read that somewhere, but I would have to go back and I don't know if I can find that again.
Well, and then isn't there a Jewish holiday that is Purim? Purim.
Yeah.
That is celebrated every year.
Yeah. Yep. Where was that? Well, I know I read it somewhere. I swear I didn't make it up.
That's okay. I'm not calling you out. I mean, I just wondered if it was like mentioned down the road.
It's okay to say you don't know. So I got a few questions, but did anybody have like any other thoughts or anything they wanted to bring up or anything I missed in that whole thing there?
Listen, my whole thing on this story is just that scepter in God's outstretched hand.
We can tell.
That's all that was. That's really something that jumped out at me.
And it's probably going to jump out to a lot more people who listen.
Right. Well, that's a great thing about it because you can take one verse, just one part of it, and you can get a whole. See, that could be a whole program in itself.
Yeah.
You could take that. And that's the one thing that, I wish more people would, when they try to discredit the Bible, when they try to discredit the whole thing, just try to not see these things.
Yeah.
Because if you read this long enough and you follow through long enough, you will, there's just so much to be gained. Like there's so much to get out of it.
And then flipping right to Hebrews 4:16. Go boldly before the Lord's throne.
Beth, there's a picture. It's been like they're starting to make it on canvases, like 17 by 20 canvases, but it's a scripture and it looks like a bunch of rainbows, but it's a scripture from the Old Testament and it links to a scripture in the New Testament.
Oh, wow.
And I think you would be very interested to see that.
Yeah.
Like there's so many intermingle. It's really neat.
Here it is. Ancient Greek documents call Xerxes' wife Amastris, who was probably a Greek form of Vashti. So Vashti was deposed in 484, 483, but she is mentioned again in ancient records as the queen mother during the reign of her son. I can't pronounce this one either. Artaxerxes, who succeeded Xerxes. So the next king, is going to be Vashti's son. So toward the end of Xerxes' reign, either Esther died or Vashti was able through her son to regain the influence she had lost. So it must have been, like I said,
because it still would have the reign still would have went to the first oldest son, wouldn't it? I mean, that's how it always went, whether the queen was alive or not, or
right.
Or maybe she just got more popular in the government eye, government point of view eye, because her son was king.
Well, if he's king, then Xerxes has to be dead. King Xerxes has to be dead. So,
well, when you think about it, I mean, for Queen Vashti, she's got some good qualities too. I mean, she's told the king, I'm not doing this. I'm not going to be your.
Well, and the thing is,
I'm not showboating for all you men, because they even said she may have been pregnant at the time, and they're she didn't want to show herself off as being pregnant or putting herself in any of those situations.
Into heavy drinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So, and some of those things that were done in the king's court weren't always appropriate.
Yeah. We
And
can't
she
even
may-
imagine what
she
these parties
may
were
have-
like.
She may have knew what
Yeah.
was going to be asked.
And she
of
was
her,
just
and
standing
she
up and
wasn't
saying,
gonna do it.
absolutely not.
Yeah.
I'm not going to, I'm
Yeah.
not going to do that.
Yep.
So, yeah. So, yeah, she had some good qualities too.
Yeah, she was actually pretty courageous.
Yeah.
Just, to stand up to him and not
I mean,
go.
the fact that he just let her go and said, well, your punishment is, well, I'll just pick another queen was probably
Yeah.
pretty. So maybe the guy wasn't so bad. Maybe of all the kings out there, he was more likable than most. He wasn't a complete, just, going to kill somebody and, just dispose of them. So, yeah, maybe he wasn't so bad. Let's see. How about this one? When we feel that our personal authority is being questioned, how can we use God's own love for us help deal with that situation? So if somebody really comes at you, like you tell them to do something, say, like me, I'm in a management position.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, you're in charge of certain things. And you tell somebody to do something, they just come back with, I ain't doing that. I ain't doing anything you tell me to do. How can you handle, that, pushback of your personal authority? Because it's in those situations, what most of us want to do is, well, we yell.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody questions our authority.
Our flesh comes out.
We can do it with our children.
Mm-hmm.
Our children say, they're not going to clean up their room.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times the first thing you do is you want to yell. You want to show your authority with strength.
Yeah.
With physical strength, with fear, and all those things. So,
Well, I'll tell you a parenting advice that might help, because I read somewhere someone's trying to yell less, and they said, distract something else, then redirect.
I've heard that before.
So maybe even distract them with a story of, listen, hey, I know you don't want to do this, but da 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 da, and then redirect their point of view. I don't know. I read that earlier today. I'm like, well, that kind of.
Well, maybe you could kind of turn that into, instead of using distract.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can say
You could
pray about it.
Yes, that's a good idea.
So you're reflecting it,
Yeah.
and then what was the second one?
Redirect.
Redirect.
Mm-hmm.
So through that prayer, you can come to a better decision about how to handle it, as opposed to corporal punishment.
Yes.
And you can use an example, or
Yeah.
you can get somebody to see why it is important. Well, as Pastor Michael was saying about his daughter and having the guinea pig, and that's like she had to make her see why it was important to clean her room, not just because I told you
Not
to,
just because I said so.
but you need to see through God's plan, through God's love for us. Why is it important that we do the things that we do, that we have structure, that we follow through on things, that we don't, just say we're going to do something and then we get what we want, we instantly just forget all about, what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I think. And it's hard because I'll admit, I don't really have a relationship with my son, because he has decided he is going to live his own life. He's got his own ideas about what he wants to do. It doesn't quite line up with what I think. But I never had a conversation with him where I wasn't trying to do that. And so sometimes I think, well, that failed. That approach failed. I should have yelled more. Maybe I should have. And there were times where it did get the best of me and I did yell. But I'd
Me
always
too.
come.
I thought the louder
Yeah,
I was,
yeah,
they heard me
yeah.
better.
But I would always come back with trying to be like, okay, I'm not just doing this because I want to be a pain and make your life difficult.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do this so when you grow up, you'll be a good person.
doing
So you'll
this
make
because
better
I love
decisions.
you.
But is it in Proverbs where it says a soft word or a soft answer
Yeah.
turneth away wrath?
I'm trying to be Danny Tanner over here. It's and now that we don't have that relationship, I think, well, maybe I didn't do what I was supposed to do.
It'll come around.
But then, right, the more I think about it is, if he came back today, I still wouldn't let the same thing slide.
Right.
And I would still have that same approach.
Yeah.
Right.
Because
Because you have your firm foundation. You stand on your rock. And
and the point is, you till your day and die, sometimes you got to work on people to hopefully they get it right, that they'll start going in the right direction. It's all you can do. You know, if you just continue to yell, and most time I tell most people, I was like, you know, when you yell at somebody, like managing at work, I don't use the approach ever yelling at somebody, because guess what? Usually you're the only one that's upset.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, they don't care. Most time they don't care.
Yeah.
No.
So you just walk away upset.
And you sound like an idiot to them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So it just makes it
Slurring your
worse.
words,
So I
probably.
I have never profited from that example of just getting mad and trying to show my anger and personal authority.
Yeah.
So I'm always hoping that, you know, there's these young kids. It's like, I've just told myself, like, you are going to have to constantly work with these kids to teach them any sort of discipline and respect,
integrity,
and all those things, to hopefully one day it'll click to where they'll go, okay, I get it. Like,
right.
And not only will it make them better in the workplace, it may make them a better parent.
Yep.
It may make them a better friend, a better coworker, all those things. And that's the best you can hope for. And some you're going to get, some you're not going to get.
Yeah.
But I think in the end, you would walk away with more regret that you didn't try to do that, as opposed to, I really showed him.
Yeah.
He tried to up me, you know, my authority, and I put him in his place. Yeah. Well, that's great in the moment. That's you feel like you've got a small victory there, but what kind of victory really is it?
Right.
I had to read nursing school, and you might have had to read it too. I don't know. It was called the 10-Minute Manager. And it pretty much was, you know, you give them a minute of reprimand or what the situation is, and then you take the next 9 minutes and point out all their positive things.
And I do that. I at least be like, hey, you screwed up on this, but here is what you're doing right.
Right.
I got faith in you.
Always end on that positive note.
I got faith in you. I know you can do this job. You have the qualities. It's just, you got to focus. You got, you just got to, you got to focus on the few things you're not doing right, and ask yourself, well, how can I do them better? It's just, that's all you can do.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, then that goes into, can an impulse, spur of the moment decision based on emotion ever fulfill God's plan for us? So do you think, like, somebody can say, well, that's just the way I'm built.
No.
That's just the way I am. When I get mad, I yell. When I get mad, I cry. When I get mad, I go be by myself and ignore everybody. And do you think,
I think that's an excuse for
can
people.
God work with that? Can God ever work with that kind of?
I think God can work with anything
to better your life, but to better yours.
He's definitely got his hands full with that.
Yeah, yeah. And when you're not wanting to budge or anything, if you have that kind of attitude, like, it's going to be harder for him to work with it.
Yeah. But Esther showed right there that she didn't react out of emotion.
Right.
Right. Not her feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah. She thought
seek
about
wisdom.
It, prayed about it,
fasted.
And
yeah.
Boy, if we all couldn't just, what a happier place we would be living in.
Well, a lot of people would say, well, life just doesn't give me time to do that. I got to
take time.
Right. But in our world, a lot of times you got to make quick decisions.
Yeah, we react first.
Right. Yeah. We're not given, in our world, we're not given a lot of time to reflect. A lot of decisions do have to be made in the moment.
Yeah. But I think a lot of decisions don't have to be made in the moment. But since we're so reactive and emotional, we do make them.
Yeah.
We
don't seek that wisdom.
We
first.
could
do
say,
just
hey,
react.
let me have some time to think about that, and I'll get back with you. But a lot of times people just jump the gun.
In a hurry.
I react out of emotion, and I don't.
Oh, me too. Me too.
I'm working on that.
But it always comes with regrets when I react that way.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, how important is it for us to remain still and wait for God's purpose to fully reveal itself before we go to work on a problem? So it kind of just bounces off what we just talked about. So,
Pastor Holly's she's a contemplator.
Yeah.
She has to sit on something for a few days.
That's good, though.
Before she can come to she might have the idea.
Yeah.
She's going to work it through and make sure that it's what God wants. And I admire that quality in her.
Yeah. It's
Well,
good.
yeah, because if we wait, we are talking to God. We
Exactly.
are relying on
Yeah.
God. We're
Like,
getting
you're
our
not-
strength from Him.
You're not only
instead of
contemplating
just-
your own self, like you're talking with him,
Exactly.
Yep.
figuring that out.
But a lot of people will take waiting for weakness. If people see,
yeah.
if people see you wait, if people see you hesitate,
Mm-hmm.
then a lot of people can immediately
Jump
say,
to
"Well,
the next option.
they're afraid. They don't want to do it."
Yeah.
Other than, well, maybe they're just really taking their time to come up with the right answer.
Yeah.
So that can be hard because you got that pressure
Yeah,
to
definitely.
act, to come to a decision. And if you don't, they'll be like, wow, you're not fit for the job. You can't make quick decisions. You can't, So in our day and age, it's very hard to, So sometimes for me, it's like at the beginning of the day, I could say, no matter what happens in the course of my day, I'm praying right now that you help me make the best decision, even if it is a quick decision.
Yeah, yeah.
That you instill in me
The best.
Yeah, that
the
discernment.
best discernment to
of
do
what
what
to
I
say.
need to do,
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
to fulfill your word and to go about things in a way that would honor you, as opposed to acting like a fool and
And regretting it later.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes for me, that's the best I can do. It's
Yes.
just, you think about even before your day starts.
Yeah.
That
Just being
no matter
mindful.
what happens
Yeah.
today, you got control of this.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times when I leave the house, I'm like, this is the day you have made.
Yep.
It's already been signed, sealed, delivered.
Mm-hmm.
All I have to do is my job. Like I said, it's like, I'll do my best and God will do the rest.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do my
It's
job
very-
and seek your face.
Yep.
Yes.
It's just very simple. And sometimes that's the best you can do because it's going to be busy. It's going to be stressful. You're going to have to make a lot of decisions, sometimes very quickly. And that's all you can do is just pray that no matter what happens, you'll make the best decisions you can at the time.
Yeah.
And if for whatever reason something doesn't work out well, it will. Everything will work out for his good and for yours as well if you have that mindset. So for me, that's almost like a no-fail type of attitude. Even if things don't go quite the way I had planned, the way I saw them starting out when I started my morning, they'll still come out right.
Yeah.
And, things will end up where they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
That's kind of an interesting one. Is it healthy to seek counsel from others regarding God's plan for your life? If you feel you have received God's word, what is the best way to confirm it?
To the second part, I think the best way to confirm it is, a prime example of a few weeks ago in the sanctuary when, okay, God, if this is really what I should be doing, make this sound equipment stop working, and boom, it did. Ask.
Yeah.
And what is it Pastor Michael says? He's not going to go to somebody that he doesn't trust.
Right.
Right.
Or to allow them to speak into his life.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to seek from somebody
Seek-
wise and
yes.
trusted.
Yes.
I'm not just going to go.
And of course, Mordecai
Ask
was
everyone.
very trusted. Esther really trusted him.
Well, yeah. As she
So
should.
I don't think she would have went into that
Yeah.
the way she did if she didn't trust what Mordecai had told
Right.
her.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dawn's my person. She is-
Well, we are
ta-
each other's
she,
person.
She
Yes,
talks me off a
yes.
mountain many a times.
Yeah.
And sometimes she makes me see things at a view I didn't want to see, and I'm like, I don't like that when I hang up the phone. But she was right.
Yep. But it's good to have that person.
Yeah.
Yeah. 'Cause-
Yeah. It's good to know who that person is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That person's going to be truthful with you. They're not going to
Mm-hmm.
blow smoke.
Sure.
They're not going to make it
Sure.
what you want
Yeah.
it to be just because
It's going to be
we're
okay.
trusted. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you created it. You better figure out how to fix it.
You broke it. You
I
bought it.
didn't say that.
No, she really doesn't. She'll just say, "Well, remember when?"
Like,
Why did I call you?
and then Beth says,
I gotta
okay,
go.
okay, all right.
But she makes me think about things.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It makes me see things in another view
Uh-huh.
that's outside of my own
Uh-huh.
view.
A lot of times we have that tunnel vision. We don't want to see the whole picture.
Sure,
Oh, yeah.
right.
We just want to see what we want to
We
see.
see, yes. Yep.
And I want you to see what I see. And I don't like it when you don't see it that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
And no offense, ladies, but that's hard for us husbands to approach things that way. Because a lot of times we're just supposed to listen,
Right.
and we're just supposed to say it'll be okay.
Yes.
So sometimes we're walking
because,
a thin
some-
line when
yeah.
we have to be like, well, look, you may be a little.
Well, and
And then you're the bad guy.
Well, and I
Yeah.
think it is like a proven fact that men's like brain, it is more of a logical like
Right.
how it's wired, and we're more emotional. So when we're talking, we're like they're instant problem
Let's fix it.
problem solving.
I can fix that
and
for
I'm
you.
like, just let me vent to you.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me gossip. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Well, it's like sometimes I come home and I just want to unload.
Yeah,
my
yeah.
day. And he's like, well, if you don't like your job, then
That's-
find something else. I said, no, I love my job. He said, well, it don't sound like it.
I just need to vent a little
Just
bit.
need to
Well,
vent.
shouldn't Dawn be
Let me call
calling?
Dawn.
Well, here's maybe a little controversial for our time we're living in right now. How important is it to first seek God's counsel before acting out in protest to an event of worldly importance?
Mm-hmm.
So we got a lot of things going on right now, a lot of protests happening all over the place. How do you know? Like, well, should I be joining in on this? Should I be,
Yeah.
or should I be, is this not what I'm supposed to do? Am I supposed to just sit back and,
Are any of them glorifying God?
right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think,
That's a great question.
yeah, I
That's
think,
why I asked it.
I would say no.
yeah. And, just go to him with that just like you would any other thing,
Mm-hmm.
like,
Yeah. Am I supposed to do this or not?
yeah, if it's really weighing on your heart, maybe that's the Holy Spirit saying, maybe you shouldn't be doing that.
Mhm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. That's all I get out of that one.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's it.
Yeah.
I think God probably would have to carry me kicking and screaming get me out there in any of these
Yeah,
protests.
I feel that way too. I'm always just like, well, I don't understand it because I'm not knocking when anybody protests, so I'm not even going to get into that. But for me personally, I'm always thinking, how do these people do this? Like, if you have a family, kids,
Mhm.
things you have to protect, like, how do you got like the time, or how can you?
That was my
risk
first thought too.
Your own
They're
safety-
paid.
Your own.
They're
safety.
paid
And you may be right about that.
$2,500 a week to $3,500 a week.
Yeah.
I'm in the wrong profession.
Yeah.
Right?
No.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just I'm
And
like,
that's probably not taxed
I could just see me protesting one time and be like, I'd be the guy they put in handcuffs and
Right.
Yeah.
walk away. From.
Here's how I get hit in the head with a brick, die,
Right.
over nothing.
So it's like, I don't know.
I
About
mean, I can go to work and die, so
Yeah.
what makes it
right?
Even peaceful protests. Listen, I'm not a confrontational person. I wouldn't want to be out there.
Nope.
Yeah.
But don't you think that you can get just as much done by being on your knees praying?
We can get more.
There yelling.
You can get more done
More done, exactly.
Yeah.
because it's not you. You're not going to be doing the work. The Lord's going to be doing the work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's easy. It's hard for us and easy for Him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But most of those probably out there protesting. I don't know. I mean, but maybe they don't know that they need to be on their knees praying.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that. You don't know that about anybody.
No,
Right.
No.
No,
No,
we don't.
you don't know
Well,
anybody's
I mean,
situation.
unless they have it on their sign that they're just,
Yeah.
Mhm.
then you know.
Yeah, but it could be somebody else's sign just says here.
Yeah, yeah.
Hold this.
And maybe they can't read. What's your sign say?
Here's your sign.
But I saw Mordecai's standing up against Haman as his form of protest. He went out there every day in sackcloth and covered himself in ashes and stood out there and defied him and defied
Right.
him and defied him.
Yeah.
But it's like it was for the right purpose because he
Yeah.
was worshiping. He was not going to worship anybody else but God. So he was not going to, no matter how dangerous it could be for him, he was not going to back down from his
Yeah.
relationship with God. He wasn't going to worship anybody else.
Mm-mm.
Does God ever, I'm sorry, Does God's favor ever exalt us over others?
No. I don't think so, because we're all equal. We're all equal in his eyes. So the favor he would give me, he would give you, you, and you. So,
Versus a non-follower? That's the way I'm looking at it right now.
But I
Kind of where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
I think once a non-follower come to Christ, he
Yes.
bless them with that favor.
Yeah,
Yes.
I agree. Yeah.
And that is hard for some Christians. Well,
Yeah.
look what he's done,
Right.
Because
Right.
judgmental, why is
Yeah.
he getting, why are you giving him that, God?
Mm-hmm.
I've been here all
Jonah,
these years.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've been here all these years worshiping you, and you haven't done that for me, but you don't do that for him,
I guess
yeah.
that's what I'm trying to say is like, you feel like, okay, you put in 20 years with the Lord. So should it ever give you this footing over somebody else to have advantage over them?
No.
No.
I don't-
Because
no.
God sees
No.
us all the same. Well,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's sometimes the way I look at it is, I don't care if you've been with the Lord 20 years. That person has never known the Lord in their life and comes to him truly in that moment, even if it's for a day, then you were on equal footing.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
There's no,
Yes.
And you know what? And to sit back and watch a new Christian on fire for the Lord.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
And it might be
what?
like, yeah.
that makes you want to. I want to capture that
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
Oh, I want
Kind of
that
reminds you where you
drive
were all those years
Right.
ago. Yeah, absolutely.
where we've kind of let it.
Yeah.
We've let it get stagnant.
Let it simmer.
Yeah.
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 You know?
It's not boiling. It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
simmering.
Yeah.
And we should never let that fire go out. But we
But-
tend to. It
Mhm.
comes.
Yeah.
Right. Oh. How can we be careful not to confuse serving our government with worshiping our politics? So, if somebody's, going either way with this, if you're on the right or on the left, wherever you are, some people can actually take that as a form of religion. Like they believe in it so firmly and they speak it so loudly that you would almost assume like that's the end of all being for them. That's where their beliefs lie. Like at the end of the day, they hang their hat on what's happening in DC.
Right.
So how can you be a faithful citizen of your country, but not confuse it with your relationship with God?
He has to trust that God's going to have his hand in all of their decisions.
And that he works all things out for good, you know?
And that, here we go. Chosen as a time as this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I truly believe that the presidents and the leaders that are in our government today
Yes,
are
definitely.
there because we may have all voted, but because God allowed them to be appointed,
Right.
whether it is for good or whether it is for bad.
Mm-hmm.
How many kings?
Whether they want to be,
Right. They have
Used,
to be used.
you know, or not.
I mean,
Right.
look throughout the Bible, and I'm not saying this regarding our president.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I don't misinterpret that.
Yeah.
Look how many kings he's allowed to be
Mm-hmm.
in power
Mm-hmm.
that were just downright evil.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
My grandmother pounded in my head as a child that you don't have to approve of your leadership,
But you have to respect.
But you have.
to respect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, and you just have to pray that they're going to do
The right thing.
the right
That
things and that
power.
they're going to pray about it before they do
Yeah.
things. A lot of
Right.
times you think, I don't
Yeah.
think they're praying about anything.
Right.
It's very hard
Praying
to see
that they have some moral principles.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. They're not sitting with it thinking. They're making
Yeah.
impulse decisions.
You,
Right.
You
More
hope
or
they're
less.
getting
Getting on Twitter and
Yeah.
You hope they're looking to Mordecai and Esther with that same kind of discernment to be like, okay, before they make a decision to go into something, come up with a
Yeah.
plan that they're looking to God first. And
yeah.
And
No.
I don't know, this doesn't really probably flow with your question, but like, I think if you look at some of your diehard Democrats and your diehard Republicans, that they are going to remain with that party regardless. They're not looking, and that's where, they're not looking at what God.
Well, that's exactly.
Yeah, no moral compass.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
What,
Yeah.
Are they looking to do godly things for our country?
Yeah.
Are they, basing their leadership and things upon God's word?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is-
people
I mean,
get so
Yeah.
you're a lifetime Democrat, and so it doesn't matter who's in office, what they say, what they do. You're still
Right, you're still a Democrat.
yeah,
You're going
you're still doing it,
Mhm.
even if
Or-
part of the platform is like that is not within God's will. That is not how it was 30 years ago. Well, still gotta stay on that donkey.
When I walk in to vote, I'm voting for who I believe is going to represent God and who I believe
Yeah.
is going to follow my beliefs and benefit my family.
Mhm.
Yeah, even if you know the whole thing's not perfect,
Right, absolutely.
you
Yeah.
still have to follow the one you think is listening to God,
And
is at least
sometimes we're
following
very
someone.
misled.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But we can only do our best. We can only
Right.
That's all we can do.
Especially with just how the system is anymore is, mostly everyone just goes down the line and it's either
Yep.
all red or all
Or-
blue. Not
yes.
me. No, but I'm gonna, and I get it. People say, well, if you're not voting all like that, then there's no point, or you're giving a disadvantage. No, I mean, I'm doing what I think is right and what's best.
It's
and
about the checks and balances.
yeah.
Mhm. Right.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, and the last one. Is there anything of your life of any value or security that can, how did I word that? I didn't quite word this one right when I wrote it down. Basically, without the value and security of a relationship with God, can we truly, I didn't word that right at all. I got that one all messed up. Is there any value or security in our lives without the love of God? Is there anything else like you can do in your life, buy, sell, acquire another relationship, anything like that, that can replace that relationship?
No.
I know the answer
No.
to the question, but
Is
No.
No, but if you do, it's always going to be wrong.
and I
It's always
asked
going to
that.
go bad.
Yeah, and I asked that because
Mhm.
Esther's thinking about it. And she's like, "Well, I'm the queen,
Mhm.
right? I got all these privileges. I'm doing pretty well for myself. I got these nice robes. I got all this stuff. Am I really going to endanger my situation
Mhm.
by going to the king and revealing that I'm a Jew, that I'm a woman of God,
Just for my
So,
people.
just for so everybody else can survive, or should I just protect myself
Mhm.
and stay quiet?" So she has that decision to make.
Mhm.
So she makes the ultimate decision that doesn't matter what else I have, doesn't matter how long I'm queen.
Mhm.
Eventually, whether they get me or my life expires naturally, I'm going to die,
Right.
and I'm still going to have to look at God in the end
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and say whether I was faithful or not.
Mhm.
And she makes the right decision.
Yeah, definitely.
So we should never get to a point in our lives where we think, our valuables, everything that we've acquired, even up to our jobs, which, let's face it, yes, that is our whole base of security in our world that we live in.
Mhm.
Like everybody, we all have to do the same thing. We all have to go to work. We all have to make money.
Mhm.
We all
We have
have
bills to
we have
pay.
bills to pay, feed our families. We all have to do that. There's no way to get out of it. None of us can just get up in the morning and go, well, you know what? God's got it. I'm just going to sit here. I ain't going to work.
I tried that. It don't work.
Yeah, you can't do
Right.
that. I mean, so that's a reality.
Yeah.
We have to look at that. Now, maybe if somehow, in some way, we could blot out the entire world,
Mm.
and we did just sit there and we say, well, this is God's will. I'm going to sit here and wait
Mhm.
for something to happen.
Mhm.
Maybe you'd be all right,
Maybe.
and you probably would.
Mhm.
Now, you might not. You might lose your house. You might lose everything that you have.
You might have to start over.
You might have to. You might be living in the woods.
Yeah.
Right.
Under,
In a box.
under a
God
tent
doesn't
you
care.
made with
Yeah.
but maybe you would be more one with God. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But you, in the end, you'd probably still be okay.
Yeah.
And in the end, if you perish lacking all of those things,
Mhm.
if you're with God, you are still going to be okay.
Right.
In the end, you're going to be more,
Yeah, because we're not taking
Protected.
those possessions with us.
no,
Nope.
no. So don't ever just think that, I guess sometimes I'm very careful not to ask God for financial possessions, things
Same.
of that nature.
Same.
I'm very careful never to be like, I wish I just, if you find a way to get me that brand new green Challenger, I'd really appreciate it.
Right.
That'd be so cool.
You sound like Chase. He's like,
Listen, I
there's my
want a
car
red.
again.
Yeah.
There's my
I
car.
want a red.
Yeah. So, it's just, I'm very careful never to pray about those kinds of things.
Yeah.
It's like if God wants me to have those things, I mean, I'm human. There's things I want. There's things I'd love to acquire. Makes you feel good.
Like that hot tub.
Like the hot tub. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
But
my
you
wife wanted
deserve
a
it,
two-seater. She brought it up. I just took it to the next level. That's what I do. So we got an 8-seater. That's what, she just wanted to get a new bed frame. We got the whole bedroom set in mahogany. I was like, oh, that's what I do. So don't tell me you want to do something unless you want to go big.
Going all out.
Yeah.
Go big or go home, huh?
Yeah. But I never
just to plant that seed.
yeah. All right. Yeah. And then she blames it all on me. You're the reason we got this big payment because.
Wait a minute. So how many years you been married now? You've been over 5 years.
I was about to say.
Husband well.
I think it'll be 7 this October.
She knows her husband well.
Yeah. Dang it.
She got you.
I should have read this book sooner. Yeah. So that was the point of that. It's just, it's just, we all have to be careful about what we pray for.
True.
Yeah.
It should always be things that are truly going to make us more closer to God and not just things for our own,
Yeah. Better
will and
for the
desire.
kingdom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I agree.
just, I tend to leave those. If I want something, my wife says no, it's like, okay, whatever. I'm not going to ask God. Wife already said no. Yeah.
The boss already said no.
Yeah, boss already said no. So I'll try again.
It's funny.
All right. Well,
I don't even remember whose turn it is to pray.
I think it's yours, Nick. Didn't I pray?
I'll volunteer. I'll go.
Volunteers tribute.
Yeah.
All right. Let me get this rolling.
Lord, thank you for bringing us all together tonight. And I just want to let you know how much we all appreciate the fact that your will always has the controlling power in our lives, that your sovereignty, your grace, all of the things that help us continue to live our lives day after day, even when times get tough, when we can't quite see the light at the end of the tunnel, when we think that, things that we're hoping for, things that we're struggling with are never going to come to a rightful, we're not going to have the answers that we desire, that you do have it all worked out. And all we need to do is be patient, continue to trust you, and just do our duty as you would see us do it for your kingdom. And just let that be just a leading guide for everything that we do in this life. I just pray that we'll all get home safely tonight, and hopefully we'll all be back here next week to do it again. And all these precious things are in your name. Amen.
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 Hey friends, Pastor Michael again. If you've enjoyed this podcast, you should consider joining us on Sunday mornings. Our address is 1943 North Water Street Extension in Yorksville. We'd love to have you join us for an in-person service.